Palestinian Foreign Affairs Minister Riyad Al-Maliki says Africa has stepped back from supporting their cause. He's pleaded with the continent not to forget them. He's joined by the International Relations and Cooperation Minister Naledi Pandor to rework Palestinian strategy in Africa. Over 25 Palestinian ambassadors accredited in Africa attending the session. SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo has more.
Well, absolutely, quite a very important gathering as South Africa, alongside the Palestinian diplomats accredited in the continent, really they're recalibrating the policy, making sure that the focal point is not just being lost in terms of the Palestinian cause. And we do know that South Africa has always been an ally to the Palestinian cause. Let's hear from Minister Pandor, really. Minister, you made some very important remarks where you were speaking about the international community's response, where we've seen inconsistencies with the Ukrainian conflict and the continued occupation in Palestine and Israel. But tell us more. What can we do as the continent to make sure that this matter is brought back into the fore in terms of our just priorities in the global village?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity, and greetings to your viewers. The position of South Africa is that all human beings deserve freedom and the enjoyment of human rights. This is our position. It's a position we held and held very clearly in the struggle against apartheid. We also, as South Africans, made excellent use as liberation movements of the value of international solidarity. Hence our belief that the world must continue to walk shoulder to shoulder with the people of Palestine as they wage their just cause for freedom. So we are saying, let's not drop international solidarity and its usefulness. It helped us to achieve freedom. And we are the ones who actually made the greatest use of the backing we got from the international solidarity networks. So we are saying, let's recreate those networks, let's energize them, let's bring them closer to the cause of the people of Palestine. And if we speak as the global community with one voice, I am sure we will achieve victory for the people of Palestine. But we need to work together solidly as the international community. We believe Africa, given its significant membership in the United Nations, has a very important role to play. The 55 member states of the African Union can be a massive chorus for the freedom of the people of Palestine. Hence our objection to Israel being granted observer status by the chairperson of the African Union Commission. We've clearly advocated that this cannot be until the people of Palestine are free.
And a very quite unfortunate decision, Minister. Obviously, it's pending in light of the processes, and you used very strong words. So you said it's incomprehensible, it's inexplicable how this conclusion was used to, just to reach that particular point, but also pointing to some vulnerable member states who might have been coerced in terms of mounting pressure against Mr. Mohammed.
Well, there are two key points. Firstly, we have the African Union Charter, which clearly spells out that we exist to fight oppression, domination of one by another, and to ensure decolonization, not just of Africa, but of the world. These are the principles and values contained in the African Union Charter. How then is it possible that a country that is taking the territory of another, that has imposed unjust laws and practices on another people, is regarded as acceptable as an observer to the African Union? So we say, weighed against the AU Charter, this particular decision is incomprehensible and cannot be accepted. And I think African countries really should all in one voice, if we adhere to the African Union Charter, they should all be saying no. But we know there's been pressure placed on countries that may not have the resources to resist different forms of projects or aid, and that they may not be expressing a political support, but one that relates to their existence and economic needs. And we're saying to them, reject that. Let us rather talk about how we assist. Don't be bullied by anybody into a position that is not in concert with the principles and values of the African Union Charter.
And maybe just to bring you, Minister, as well into the conversation, you speak about Africa stepping away from this very important cause. What would be your clarion call to the continent to understand the gravity of the situation, especially given the very history of this continent where we know oppression, where we know very far-reaching implications? What would be your message to the capitals where your ambassadors are coming from?
Exactly, that's really the point. That, if there is a country or countries, people or peoples, that they can comprehend and understand the situation of the Palestinian people, should be, the African continent and the peoples of Africa. If there should be any country or people in the world that they can really understand the suffering of the Palestinian people and their strive for freedom and independence, it should be, people in this continent and countries of the African continent. And that's why, it is incomprehensible and difficult for us to understand why such countries and peoples, they have short memory, and as if they want to erase their past, ignore it, and by ignoring it, they are ignoring what's happening in Palestine. Because it's like a mirror that you see the reflection. When they look at what's happening in Palestine, they should really remember what happened to them. And if they want to ignore what's happening to Palestine, as if they don't want to remember what happened to them. This is really very ironical and difficult to comprehend here. If we need really to understand our plight and what we are under in terms of suffering, occupation, discrimination, apartheid, racism, colonization, all of that, it should be here that it can really understand exactly the gravity, the sensitivity, the feeling, exactly. They can live with us. They can understand, what we say should echo easily, in their minds, in their memories. And that's why we always, try to come here, because we feel that we can really get that support that we always need. We cannot find it in other places, but we can find it here. And, as Minister Pandor has said, we are talking about 55 countries. We, as Palestine, who are really striving for our freedom and independence, if we want to rely on a strong foundation, strong support, we should start here in this continent. And that's why when we see how this continent is slipping away, how this continent is starting really to look into, certain interests rather than principles, and they are really giving away such fundamental, important principles, in exchange for, certain interest. It really worries us that much. And that's why, if we want to restart somewhere, we should really come here, start in South Africa, and find our way to the different capitals, in this continent.
And just before I let you go, Minister, in the recent engagement with the US President Biden, President Abbas said the window opportunity for a two-state solution, it's getting slim because of the continued occupation and the annexation that is unabated. How do we try and make sure that this particular solution is not moving away, especially because it's favored by so many parties who are really just keen to see peace prevailing?
Well, first of all, yes. We have spent so much effort, a long time, in order to reach this kind of consensus, world consensus about the two-state solution. And that's why we cannot give it away, because, Israel does not respect the two-state solution. So this is really very important. But in order really to save and to protect the two-state solution, it's not enough to keep repeating it. You have to act on it. And by acting on it, the first thing to do is to come forward, to have the courage to come forward and to recognize the state of Palestine. If you believe in two-state solution, and if you recognize one state, you should recognize the other state if you're talking about two-state solution. Otherwise, you are talking about one-state solution. So two-state solution requires, recognizing the state of Palestine. And this is exactly what President Mahmoud Abbas has told, President Biden. If you believe in two-state solution, what prevents you from coming forward and recognize the state of Palestine? And then, other countries will follow. Otherwise, yes, the two-state solution is dying. The two-state solution is slipping away also because, Israel is taking advantage that, there is hesitation among the many countries to act on the two-state solution by creating facts on the ground on a daily basis, by building more illegal settlements, by confiscating Palestinian land. And this is exactly what the Israelis are doing. When the time comes and when the United States of America decides to move on the two-state solution, nothing is left for the two-state solution, to be implemented. Israel is trying to take advantage of this hesitation, taking advantage of such reality by creating irreversible facts. And when, we will look into this matter, nothing is left. And that's why time of great essence, if there is any decision to move in the two-state solution, it is really now, and this is exactly the message that President Mahmoud Abbas has really referred to, when he met with President Joe Biden.
All right. To the ministers, thank you so much indeed for your time. Of course, quite a very rare occurrence having two ministers really at once from South Africa and Palestine and really thrashing out a number of issues. For the diplomats, it's going to be a very significant 2 days to try and reposition the strategy of the Palestinians here in the continent. And of course, quite a very important cause that they are pushing for self-determination and for their own independence.